Before we get started, I have a quick favor. I've been self-funding the Finding Genius podcast for 5 years now. I've done over 3,000 episodes. And as you can see on YouTube, we're up over 1 million views on the channel, which is fantastic. The next thing I really want to push on is to get up to 10,000 subscribers. Because once we do, we'll be able to put a donate button and we'll be able to solicit donations to help keep the podcast running and to also get the Finding Genius Foundation moving along. We have a big project studying anxiety, depression, and PTSD and working on a product to help people overcome these problems because I've seen them explode recently after the last 2 years of the whole virus situation. So if you would, please subscribe to the podcast. That would help us tremendously. Give us a thumbs up and check in the description for Buy Me a Coffee. It's about $5. If you could buy me a coffee, I'd really appreciate it. It would help keep the channel going, and I love coffee. Thank you.
Whoops. Hi there, this is Christy Whitman, two-time New York Times bestselling author, and I'm looking forward to sharing my expertise on getting into and maintaining flow with my new book, The Flow Factor. And so tune in to the very end because you're going to learn about how to master your energy and stay in flow, how to get out of survival mode and be in a state of constant flow, no matter what life throws at you.
Forget frequently asked questions.
Common sense, common knowledge, or Google.
How about advice from a real genius? 95% of people in any profession are good enough to be qualified and licensed. 5%
go above and beyond.
They become very good at what they do, but only
0.1%
are real geniuses. Richard Jacobs has made it his life's mission to find them for you. He hunts down and interviews geniuses in every field: sleep science, cancer, stem cells, ketogenic diets, and more. Here come the geniuses. This is the Finding Genius Podcast
with Richard Jacobs.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Finding Genius Podcast. Yesterday is Christy Whitman. She's a New York Times bestselling author, a transformational leader. She's appeared on The Today Show, The Morning Show, TEDx, the Hallmark Channel, and her work has been featured in numerous publications and magazines. Christy teaches the law of attraction, energy mastery, and personal development. She does private sessions with clients to help them feel more aligned spiritually. Currently lives in Arizona. Website is christywhitman.com. So welcome, Christy.
Thank you, Rich, for having me. Hi, everyone.
Well, tell me a bit about your journey. How did you get into this kind of work? What were you doing before, and what led you to change?
Well, it's funny. I was in corporate America for about 13 years, and I sold liquor, Pepsi, and drugs. So, yeah, I was a pharmaceutical sales rep. And so when I was living in Chicago, I had just graduated college, and I checked the box for everything that I thought was going to make me happy, right? Go get a college degree, go get a great paying job, make some money, get a guy, the whole check, 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 check. And I just found that I wasn't happy. And actually, a friend of mine that's known me all my life said, I've never seen you more miserable. And so I started going to therapy, and that was my introduction to personal development. And I realized that I had a outside in view of what would make me happy, meaning if I did this, that, then I would be happy. But I did all that and it didn't make me happy. So I started searching for what is happiness? What is fulfillment? How do you get it? Why are some people happy and others aren't? And this led me to move to California, and I met a woman who was a hairdresser, and she was cutting my hair, and she happened to be very, very joyful. And it was one of those moments. Do you remember the movie When Harry Met Sally and they're in the diner and the woman goes, I'll have what she's having? That was that moment for me where it was like, what do you do? Because I want to do it too. And so she told me that she meditated. And for me, that blew my mind because I never knew anybody, this is the early 90s, I never knew anybody that ever meditated. My idea of a person that meditated was some guru guy sitting on a mountain somewhere with a long beard, white hair in a yogi style, that was who meditated. And so I asked her if I could have her meditation teacher's number, and I met with Melanie. And the first thing that Melanie said to me was, you create your own reality. Now, this is way before internet. This is way before The Secret. And when she said that to me, something in me knew that. And it was like, yes, I do. But then my mind kicked in and said, how? And so then she said, by your thoughts. You're either repelling things from you or attracting things to you based on the way you you think. And again, that was a huge paradigm shift for me. Again, the way I think, I thought I was my thoughts. I thought every thought that I thought was true. And so, how would I know that otherwise? And no one ever talked to me about that. And so I just started watching my thoughts and becoming a student of what is lack, because lack never feels good. When we're having negative thoughts, if you think about it that way, negative thoughts are from lack, and lack and scarcity always feels bad. And the opposite of that is abundance. When we're thinking positive thoughts, when we're thinking, what would I love and what do I want and what would feel good, we're coming from this space of abundance. And so I really became a student of what's the difference between lack and abundance, and more importantly, how do you shift that? And so that's what I now teach, and I've been teaching people for 25 years.
Well, is it just lack or is it fear as well?
Well, fear comes from lack. So anytime we have worry, doubt, fear, it's coming from a perspective of lack. So like if you're afraid of something, you're afraid you're not going to be protected. You have lack of protection. If you're afraid that you're not going to have what you need in the future, you're afraid you're not going to have enough. So that perspective of fear is coming from thinking that either I can't do something, I don't know how to do something, I don't have the resources to do something, I don't know if I'm going to be okay in the future. All of that fear that we have inside of us, and worry and doubt, comes from that perspective of lack, which is never enough.
I guess there's fear from lack in the past. And I don't want to go back to that where things sucked back then, or, fear that something lack is going to happen to us. If I do this, I may lose that. And then just, current lack, I wish I had this, I wish I had that, because I don't have that, I'm stuck. I guess it has like past, present, future characteristics too.
Well, yeah, it does, because our brains think in past, present, future. And all time truly is simultaneous, because when you think about it, you could think of a memory and that memory could affect you in the present moment. You could be thinking about something in the future and that future thought affects you in the present moment. And yet our minds are always cycling. It does it all day, every day. We could be sitting here in mid lunch or midday going, what did I have for lunch yesterday? What am I going to have? Just a simple thing of, what did I eat yesterday? Am I hungry right now? What am I going to have for dinner? And it's cycling like that all the time. And it's something that we can't stop or shift in the sense. So it makes sense to, when we feel a fear or a doubt or worry, when we're in lack of a thought from the past, it's in the moment, it's in the now that we can shift it by shifting our energy. And that's what the flow factor, my new book, is all about, is really how to master your energy, because when you do, you're in a flow state. So if you're thinking of something in the past, like you were saying, I'm afraid now because I didn't have what I needed in the past, by bringing in thinking about compassion or thinking about abundance, thinking about having what you need in the now moment, brings you back into flow.
So, I read some books on flow. Stephen Collier written about them. Michelle, Csikszentmihalyi, etc. What's your definition of flow? Like, what's the experience like for you?
Flow just feels good. Flow is where we are in harmony. Flow comes from a higher perspective. We have like when I say the flow factor, we are the factor that gets into flow, because flow as an energy, as a support, it's existing. It exists for us all the time. And when we exercise our free will based on what we think, because we're always the one choosing, then we're the factor that gets into that alignment of flow. And so flow just feels good. And anytime we're not feeling good, or we're thinking thoughts that don't feel good, we're out of flow.
Yeah, I thought flow is a state where you kind of get lost in what you're doing, and your mental capacity goes up, time slows down, that kind of thing. Is it just a state of feeling good to you?
No, it's way more than that. It's being in alignment with the greater part of who we are. So that's why when you're in flow, time seems to go quick. That's why a musician can download some wonderful, amazing piece of music. That's why someone like an athlete like Michael Jordan can absolutely be in his just absolute greatness. So it is all of those human experiences that we have, but that exists for us in any moment in any day, because we are connected to a greater, larger part of ourselves, and it can affect every aspect of our lives. It could affect the money that flows to us, the career success, the health in our bodies, the the positive feelings we have in relationships. It's not just for athletes. It's not just for, creative types like musicians and artists. It's being in that place. It just kind of feels like, when you're driving and you keep hitting the red lights, and then all of a sudden you start hitting all the green lights. That's what flow feels like. It feels like, nothing's stopping me. I'm just continuing to move and it feels good. And you just know that the universe is working with you, or your soul or God, or however you want to define that or describe that. But it's just you feel good moving forward. And the thing that we all have to know, though, is that in this third dimensional experience that we're all in called life, there's contrast. Contrast happens all day, every day. And contrast could be someone says something rude to you, or maybe someone posts something rude in a comment, or your teenager, it snaps at you, or your partner snaps at you, or your mom's in a bad mood, or your dad just, transitioned, or you get a tire gets, a flat on your way to an important meeting. Your boss isn't pleased with something you did. I mean, there's so many varieties of things that can happen. So contrast happens, but it's up to us whether we resist that contrast and whether we get back into flow from those daily things that could potentially pull us off.
So how do you access this flow state? Is it only through meditation, or are there multiple ways?
No, there's a lot of different ways. As a matter of fact, in the back of the book, The Flow Factor, I have an entire appendix section. And in that, I talk about in the book that there are 4 bodies. We have our mental body, emotional body, physical body, and spirit body or energy body. And so I have 4 different processes for each different section in the appendix of the books. There's 16 different processes that are things that you can do in your daily life. And one of the processes that I talk about, I don't talk about it in the book, but I'd love to give it here, is that when you're in a space of resisting contrast, and we call that survival mode, because you and I, Richard, were talking about lack and scarcity and how it doesn't feel good, right? Well, when something contrasting happens, we go into survival mode, meaning fight, flight, freeze, and it's hard to get out of it sometimes and to get back into flow. So the solution to get out of it and to get back into flow is really focusing on, okay, what do I want, right? What do I want? Why do I want it? And how do I want to feel? And then understand that feeling state is the flow. So when we can start saying, okay, what I want is I want to make more money. Okay, why do I want that? Because it'd be more fun. I'd be less stressed. I would have more things I could do, right? And ultimately, why do you want it? Because I would feel free. So that feeling of free, of being free, is a state of mind, is a state of being that when we can tap into it just by thinking about what freedom would feel like and what that would feel like or look like to have, I'm using obviously money and financial freedom as an example, but you could apply this to anything. But as you're looking at like, wow, what would financial freedom look like in my life? You're focused on what you do want. And then you start to feel that and you start to embody it. You can start to imagine it and imagine that it's here already as if you already have it. And when you're doing that, you're using your power in the now to create the future and to create something very different, so you don't keep pushing up against the frustration and the fear of not having enough money, as an example.
Well, without having the money, though, how do you get to, closer to a flow state about it? Or how do you relieve tension or worry about it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. When you start focusing, you get your mental body focusing on what it would feel like to have it. And then once you start imagining that, your emotional body starts to kick in. And when you allow yourself to feel and imagine, pretend, however you want to say, that you already have it, now you're starting to move your energy and therefore your vibration and therefore everything that comes with that, the attraction point part of that. The minute your mind, and it will, the minute your mind goes to, well, that's all fine and dandy, that's going to feel great, but I don't know how I'll do it, or that's never been my case, I'm too old, I have no way of I don't know how. That's what I call in the book, The Flow Factor, split energy. And there's actually a process that I talk about on how do you relieve split energy. Because the minute you're thinking about what you do want and you're deliberately putting yourself in that feeling state to attract it, our minds, because they do that, will go, but, right? I can't have that. So that statement of I can't have that, that's where we have to look for a better thought. Why can't you have that? Right? Well, I've never had it in the past. Okay, but just because you haven't had it in the past, does that mean you can't have it in the future? No. So it's a step-by-step process of really being able to examine what our consciousness is focused on, because we create from our consciousness. Now, what's our consciousness? It's the words that we say, it's the thoughts that we think, it's the beliefs that we hold, it's the emotions we feel or don't feel, and the actions that we take. And all that creates our results. So if you're wanting to think positively, but your emotional body, your emotions, your feelings are in doubt, you have split energy. And therefore, your results are mixed or nothing ever changes. And so that's the key, is to get all of those parts into alignment, into the flow. Because when you do, then there's nothing blocking you or stopping you.
Well, all right, so I can see recognizing split energy, but then what do you do? How do you get to flow?
So one of the processes I talk about is compassion, because compassion is like that middle ground. Like if you think about lack and abundance, they're two very different states of being. And to go from lack all the way over to abundance, it's very hard for some people. If you're in despair, you're totally in fear and you're feeling bad and you're just in full doubt, you can't just all of a sudden jump over into, I will have all the money in the world that I need, right? Because it's like your beliefs, there's no momentum there. There's no traction. There's no evidence there. So to go into the middle state of being, if you will, is, and this is one of the universal laws I talk about, is the law of sufficiency and abundance. To get into a place of sufficiency, or I'm okay, bring self-compassion that in the past it hasn't been that way. So it's not feeling sorry for yourself, it's self-compassion. And self-compassion feels soothing. It's like if it's really cold outside and someone brings you a warm cup of coffee or a tea and you hold it and you're like, that's what it feels like. And in the book, The Flow Factor, I talk a lot about compassion, self-compassion, and how do you get into that soothing place? How do you self-soothe? Because that's the next step to get out of the lack, to neutralize yourself, because compassion is neutralizing. And once you have that neutralizing place where you're like, you know what? I'm okay. I've got food in my fridge. I've got a means to go buy dinner if I need to. I've got a roof over I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm not the richest man in the world, right? I don't know how right now I'm going to become financially free, but today I've got enough gas in my tank and I've got money to pay for that gas. It brings you back to the I'm okay, the present moment where I'm all right. And now what do I want? What would I love?
Well, what about working towards a goal? Does it help you calm down and see the steps and then make an action plan and do them? Or is it just the point to just in the moment make you feel better and everything will take care of itself?
No, it is, because once your state of being has calmed down, then you think clearer. You can find, you can't find solutions when you're focused on the problem. It's like Einstein said, right? It's like you cannot create a solution from the same mind that created the problem. I'm paraphrasing, of course. So when we're focused on the problem and what we don't want and when we don't have, it's very hard to open up to potential and possibilities and solutions. So when you come back into that neutral state and your limbic system is calmed down, your nervous system is calmed down, your emotions are calm, now you're more in alignment. That's where flow starts, in that neutrality place. And once you're now in that flow, ideas that you never thought about before, things that you never could have even imagined, that starts to come to you. You start opening up to it. Now, does it mean that your financial situation changes in that moment? No, but you may get an idea that completely changes the way you do your business. And then you get more, you take that action and you do that. And now your business has changed and there's the financial flow. So being in a different state of mind is very different. Finding your genius, as they say, right? Finding that place of alignment helps you connect with that higher genius self. Because as I like to think of it this way, as human beings, think of it as like what's on your computer, like your file folders and, all that kind of stuff. And everything that's on your computer that you have access to, that's like us as a human being. But when we connect to our soul self, we connect with our higher self in whatever term, if you want to call it God, universe, soul. When we do that, it's like hooking up to the internet. now you have access to everything, even beyond yourself. And that's where the spiritual body comes in, where it's like you may and I may not know the how, but our soul does, our divine self does, God does. And as we're in alignment and in the flow with that part, now we can have access to it. Now we're open to receive that because we're not just stuck in what we know.
Well, okay, so again, once you calm yourself down, once you're in a flow state, I mean, I would think people still would need a plan, an action plan, steps, where they come up with it themselves, to get to their goal. Like, how do you take them from like, okay, calm, I don't have, but I want to get there, I'm okay with that right now, to how do I get there? When will I get there? What does that take?
Yeah, it's taking, like, when you're in that space, you're going to have more alignment. You're going to have more things coming to you, more insights. You're going to have a better opened mindset to be able to plan your goals, to be able to look at, all right, what is my end vision and what do I envision? And from there, like Stephen Covey says, or even Tony Robbins, think with the end in mind. How do I go from that? What would be the next step backwards? And a lot of times the first step will be revealed. It's like, what's the first thing that I need to do right now? And the insights will come to you, whether you know what to do or whether your, higher self knows what to do. That first step will come to you. We're not expected to take 10 steps at a time, but that first step will come, and then the next and the next.
How will it come? Like in a dream, or a sudden, like, oh yeah, I'll do this, or realization?
I mean, there's infinite ways it could come. It could come in a friend, you're talking to a friend and all of a sudden, your friend says something, you're like, that's it, right? It's like you get the solution. Someone can hand you a book and you start reading the book and your insight can come there, could come into a dream. You could be walking in nature and then all of a sudden you just have this vision and this idea. There's infinite ways that information could come. You might see someone as a mentor that's doing exactly what you're doing, or a coach, and that person gives you the steps that they took, and you start taking those steps and yours might divert from them or stay on track. So there's infinite ways but the key is energetically to get into the flow, to have your mindset in the receiving mode, not in the, oh my God, I'm screwed kind of mode.
And how many people that you've counseled or helped to get into this mode get stuck at this point? They don't know where to go from here, or they actually all seem to just figure it out.
Well, that's just it. It's like our survival instincts are fight, flight, freeze. And that freeze mode of, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. What am I going to do? That's part of the survival mode. And that's where you need to start shifting the, I'm open. I'm asking for the next step. I'm open to receive. Anytime there is a thought that I'm stuck or I can't get through this or I don't know what to do, those are the things that are running through our consciousness. And by shifting that thought, even those words that we say, when you say, I can't, right? This is too hard. Like those type of words, they don't instill flow. I mean, one thing I talk about a lot, and for all your listeners, you can go to watchyourwords.com. It's plural, watchyourwords.com. It's a free video program where I talk about words and phrases that come out of LAT. And the minute you say these words, you've closed off opportunity, you've closed off potential, like you've closed off the possibilities. But in the videos, I'm chatting with you, I give you like what not to say, and I have you say it, and then what to say, and then you can say it, so you can feel for yourself. Am I closed off and in a place of absolutely can't do this, or am I opened up and able to receive the higher partnership that exists? So our words are like, it starts the spark of what we create. And was it the martial artist guy, what is his name, Bruce Lee, he used to say that words are important and that they are like magic, they create spells. That's why we call it spelling. So our words and what we say, even within the privacy of our own minds, that's where we need to start. Because if you're saying, yeah, I'd want to do this, but I don't know how, the minute you're saying but and anything that comes after that, that's your split energy. So just watching your words words, because your words lead to your thoughts thought over and over again become a belief. We see the belief become evident. We go, see, it's a belief. And now it gets solidified, which then makes us feel scared, disempowered, doubtful, back in lack. And then the actions that we take are very different. I mean, if you're like, yes, I can do this, I can have that, I can be that, and you're feeling that, and your thoughts are coming from that, and you really start to take the actions, and then evidence starts to happen, and now that solidifies a belief even more. You feel empowered. You're more likely to take more actions, right? Like if you go to the gym, let's take an example. If you go to the gym and you start to see some evidence of your body getting tighter, or maybe your clothes are getting looser, or you look better, and you start to think, yeah, this is really working. I can really do this, right? I can lose the weight I want. I can build the muscle I want. I can feel fit. And now your thoughts and what you're starting to see are in momentum and in flow and in alignment. You start to feel good, and now you're ready to do it again, because it's like, I'm seeing evidence that this workout, this system of workout is working for me. But if you're the same person, if you're like, yeah, I've gone 5 days and I haven't seen a difference. It doesn't make a difference if I work out or not. No matter what I do, I can't seem to lose the weight. And then you don't. And then it's like, and you feel disempowered. How excited or motivated are you going to be to get up and go to the gym and do that workout? You're not.
I don't know why it popped into my head, but maybe it'd be silly. But I imagine you made a short play where the people were singing, like one was singing about lack, and they were all downcast and all that, and then they go through all this, and then they find like abundance and joy, and then they sing about that. Maybe it sounds silly, but I just wonder if it would come through in a cool way to people if you made like a short play about it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. See?
Would you see what you did? You got into flow in this conversation. You got an idea that came to you.
Yeah. Well, I flow it back to you. There you go. So what's I don't know, like how often do people get stuck and they get into like a rut? Let's say they accept the premise, they try, maybe it even works, and then they just somehow fall back into a rut. Like how do you keep moving? How do you get them to be self-starting often enough that they don't fall into a bad mental space to be work?
Well, we're all human and we all have thoughts that are negative all day, every day. It doesn't matter who we are. It's not about someone being super motivated and someone not. The person that succeeds at doing this, they have tools. And those tools, being universal tools, when you use those tools, they work. And so it's in those moments when you don't feel motivated, in those moments when you are stricken with doubt, it's utilizing the tools because they work. And so that's how you get unstuck, is by utilizing these tools. And, everybody's talking now about how bad life is and how scary it is and the future looks horrible and, all the doom and gloom and everything. But the fact is that we're living in a time where there is more personal development, people, teachers, coaches that are bringing about wisdom that actually helps people. And like the flow factor, having those 16 different energy mastery processes that you can do when you have a moment. There's 4 processes just on being the mental body. And if your thoughts are in a negative place, 4 different processes that you can do, that you can utilize so that it takes you out of it and shifts your mindset. And they all work. I was just doing this with a group of people the other day, and we did the process on split energy, and every single person is like, oh, I feel lighter. I feel like I shifted. Oh, I feel so much better. It's like, a saw in the garage. If you need to cut something, the saw will work, but you still got to pick up the saw and use it.
You got to do your part, and then these methods do their part to bring you to a better place.
Well, that's it. I mean, we all have free will and choice. And so even in those moments where we feel stuck, that's a survival mode. And so the part of us might say, don't do anything. You're fine. It's not worth it. Just lay on the couch. You don't need to be better. You're fine the way you are. It's okay. That's just our survival mode. And so that's this. And then you might have another part of you that's like, no, I want to succeed. I want to better my life. I want to have more. I want to experience more. I want to be more. I want to feel more aliveness and growth in my life. Well, the part of you that is in tune and is in flow, right? That part that's larger, that part that's in that space of, come on, let's get this. That part can help the lower level part.
Have you ever run into a nihilist? They just, nothing matters. Everyone's doomed. I'm doomed. There's no point. I don't know if you just run away from people like that, but have you ever had like real tough customers that, again, appear to be nihilists?
Well, that my mom's like that. My dad was like that. And
Oh, really?
oh, yeah. And I mean, my mom is still like that. And so it's, whenever I talk to her and I call her every day, just because I'm I'm a loving daughter. It's the same thing. There's no hope. Nothing. Everything's life has gone to hell in a handbasket. Everything sucks. Why is life worth living? And I just say, okay, I'm sorry you feel like that, Mom. And I bring compassion to myself that I'm hearing that, and I give compassion to her because she's not going to know a very different life. And then if it's not my mom, if it's someone that I don't need to be around, I probably won't call them and be friends with them. I probably won't reach out to them and ask them to come to a party because they're going to be that party pooper, right? So I'm selective about the people that I hang out with.
What if there's someone that is earnest? They do want to help themselves, but they just keep falling back into a rut, and they keep, going back to like the old ways that they wouldn't, some people, I guess, have to do a whole lot in order for this to work for them. Maybe some people a lot less, but what have you noticed? Some people just, they just have these like burdens they can't get rid of, or like, what can they do?
Well, like I talk about in the Flow Factor, there's some people that have more traumas than others, but we all have traumas. And those parts of us that pull us back, that make us feel like a victim, that we don't want to. I have a client that is all on board. She wants to change. She wants to improve her life, but she sometimes gets into a place where she's like, why bother? Is this really going to work? I doubt these will really work. And she gets into those modes every once in a while. And so what I tell her is, let those parts be a slug. Let those parts be okay. You can listen to them and say, okay, thanks for sharing. And I'm going to give myself some compassion. Compassion comes in three ways. Imagining that your soul is all around you and that you have this support 5 feet, like a big energy bubble, 5 feet above you, 5 feet below you, 5 feet all around you, in front of you. And when you start to feel that, it's comforting to feel that you're not here alone, that you have your soul with you. And that alone shifts her. And then, and I love for you, Richard, and I love for you, the listener, to do this as well. Give yourself a hug. Just wrap your arms around yourself. Now, it might sound silly, but somatic touch and literally giving yourself a hug settles down your nervous system, your limbic system. It calms you because everybody likes a hug, right? And giving yourself that hug and that part of you that's whining, that part that doesn't want to try, that part that feels stuck, just giving that part of you inside of you that hug. And then the third part, so you got your soul connection, you got your hug, and then you got words of affirmation. It's okay. It's all right. Without judging that part, without trying to change that part, just tell it, it's okay. It's fine. You're good. You're enough. Don't you feel better doing that?
I feel a little bit better with the hug, but I like to be hugged anyway. So
still, you get to hug yourself whenever you want.
Some people say they don't like to be touched. I have a few friends like that. I joked with one of them. I said, "How do you have children? How do you marry? Come on," because he's like, you don't want to talk about it. But have you ever heard? Have you ever heard someone? You tell someone something, why don't you this, that, or the other, and they go, "I know." They're never gonna do it, and they have this like sad, resigned voice that they give you. Like, I know. I've heard that. Like, what do you do?
The victim. Yeah, they're playing the victim, and I talk a lot about in the Flow Factor about the drama triangle, and Stephen Cartman in the 60s created the model of the drama triangle, and there's 3 roles that people play within the drama triangle. There's the victim, which is that role that you're, nothing works for me. Okay, I'll try to do it. There's a persecutor, which is the one that judges and blames and angry and it's all your fault and look what you did. And that's kind of like the bad guy role. And then you have the rescuer, the good guy role, right? The heroine. And all of our stories, it doesn't matter if it's fairy tales from Cinderella, you got Cinderella, who's the victim, you got the wicked stepmom, that's the persecutor. And then you got of course, the handsome prince that's going to come and save the day as the rescuer. Now we could talk about comic strips, or comic books for guys, right? You got Batman, of course, is the hero. You've got the victim who is ever being robbed, or the city of Gotham. And then you got whoever's the latest bad boy or bad guy in the story. It could be the Penguin, right? So there's all this story, this drama based on these 3 roles. And we do this in our lives. So when you're playing the rescuer, say, for example, trying to make someone feel better that doesn't want to feel better, that doesn't want your help, you're being a rescuer. And what happens is that we switch roles within the drama triangle. So someone that's a victim and is doing the Eeyore thing, oh, poor me, I don't know if I want to change. And you're like, come on, you can do it. Come on, you can change. Come on, you can do this. You're just wasting your breath because victims don't want to change. They want to be a victim. They want people to read their mind and give them what they need, but they don't want to have to work for it. They don't want to have to do it. And they stay in this place of life's against me, poor me. And unfortunately, Richard, some people stay like that their whole lives. My dad was like that to the day he died. And as much as I would love to, help him and, wanted to give him advice or wanted to make things better, and as much as I tried to be the rescuer, he stayed the victim. And he really thought that God is against me. And that's how he lived his life. And there's no changing someone like that unless they themselves want to change, because a victim doesn't want to change. And if you're a friend of theirs, a daughter of theirs, if you're trying to rescue them, it becomes where you become the victim. God, after all I've done for them, oh my God, I've given them everything. I've told them everything that they don't want to change. Now the rescuer shifts roles and you become a victim. So the only way out of the drama triangle is compassion, because the minute you judge, you're back in the drama triangle. This person is this and this person's that. And anytime we judge ourselves or another, we're in the lack triangle. We're in lack. And when we bring compassion to ourselves and do that whole invite the divine in, invite prayer to God, right? An intention, a hope, a dream, feeling that your soul all around you. That's the energetic way of inviting in a different mindset, a different viewpoint, a different perspective than your own. Then you give yourself a hug or put your hand on your heart or grab your arms or rub your back, tap your knee, whatever you need to do, but do something physical to soothe your body. And then the third part is the words of affirmation. It's okay. It's all right. I'm enough.
How come you were able to break through this? I mean, both of your parents, you said, weren't this way. How did you do it?
Well, I got tired of being like that. My sister had committed suicide, and that was a big wake-up call for me, that I didn't want to turn out like she did. I definitely didn't want the kind of relationship my mom and dad had. I didn't want to be in a place where I could see it from a young girl. No matter what my dad did or provided, it was never enough for my mom, and she was constantly comparing herself to all of her other friends, and her husband is so sweet and does this, and he's so patient, and this husband is so successful, and it was like this projection onto my dad that he wasn't enough. And he felt, no matter what I do, no matter what I earn, I'm never going to please her. And I just would see this, and once I learned, oh my God, my whole childhood is based in lack. And no wonder I didn't feel good about what I accomplished or what I did or how much I had or anything like that, because if I'm thinking in lack thoughts, that is what I am going to continue to experience no matter what my results are. When you're thinking in lack, you feel bad. But the choice is, because we have free will and choice, when I change my language, that's why I said go to watchyourwords.com. When you change the words you say, you change your life. One of the words in there is should. And my mom could say should 10 times in a sentence. Oh, well, you should, and you shouldn't, and you shouldn't, you should. It's like should is one of those words that comes directly from the drama triangle. It comes from lack. It literally collapses possibilities and potential. And it's like, it doesn't feel good. That's just one of the words.
I just think it's amazing that you're able to overcome that. That's really great.
Took a lot.
In your own life. Oh no, I'm sure it takes work forever. Do you ever find yourself falling backwards or falling out of your own, teachings? Do you have, how often do you have to refresh yourself to make this work?
Every day I have to choose my vibration. Every day I have to choose thoughts. Sometimes I may like, oh, this sucks. Wait a minute. No, this doesn't suck. Let me, it's like reset, compassion to myself. Wait a minute. This is going to be better, and this is what I want. This is what I would love. So, every day I have to tend to my mind, and I have to watch my own words, and I have to imagine what I do want instead of what I don't want. So, and the first thing when I wake up in the morning, if I'm already on a worry thought, I know, and that's what I was saying earlier, Richard, is that having processes, having tools saved my life, because if I didn't have those processes and I didn't have those tools, I'd be resourceless. And that's where most people get stuck. So thank God that I gathered the tools along my journey of over 30 years of doing this work, but 25 that I've been teaching this work. And I have so many tools that I could pull out. I've got a huge tool shed that whenever I need to pull something out, whenever I need to utilize something, whether it's give myself a hug, change the words of affirmation, meditate, tend to my split energy, refocus on visualizing or imagining something else. These are all things that are ingrained in me, because it's not so much what you know, it's what you apply. And like I said, you could have that, that tool in the shed, but if you don't use it, it's useless. I say to women all the time, you could have that face cream in a jar, but if you don't use it, it's not going to do anything. It's like go into the gym. You could have a gym membership, but if you don't go and pick up the weights, it's not going to do anything.
So how long does it take? I know everyone is different. On average, for someone to really internalize the program and consistently use it to help themselves live better.
I've had people literally within a day call me back and go, oh my God, I got a new job. Oh my God, I got the promotion. Oh my God, I met the guy. I mean, it can happen. I've had people do a process and then within a week had, one woman did a magnetizing process that I did with her, and she had a check from the government out of the blue, was not expecting it, didn't know that this was going on, had a $27,000 check in her name in the mailbox like a week later. I've had people where they had no way out of something, helped shift their perspective. They had no money, they had no way of getting out of an abusive relationship, shift their perspective, got some hope, and then all of a sudden they got a $10,000 insurance policy from their father that passed 3 years prior. I mean, there is magical miracles that happen all the time, but we have to be in tune and in the flow of them in order to receive them.
Okay. So is your book available on audiobook or just Amazon Kindle, or where people get it?
All of it. Yeah. It's the Flow Factor. You could go to the flowfactorbook.com. I have a lot of different places and choices, but yes, of course, you can go to Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, any local bookstore can get it. And when you do, I have bonuses. So if you go to your local bookstore, you go to Amazon, go to the flowfactorbook.com, put in your receipt, because what I did is I created all of those processes in the appendix, those 16 processes that I've talked about. I recorded them on audio so that you can hear me taking you through it instead of trying to read it and take yourself through it. So that's just one of the bonuses that you get when you buy a book.
So what's next for you? What do you feel called to do at this point?
Just continue to help people get into the flow. I mean, that's really where my focus is. My focus always in a general space is how can I serve? Because if I could help one person not end up like my sister, I've done a good job. And so I just want to serve so that people feel better about this life that we get to live and have a different perspective so that people are enjoying their lives and that they're full of joy with maybe a moment of contrast, but having the processes to get back into joy.
Okay. Well, very good. I mentioned the hotel I took my family to a while ago, they had a lazy river, so you could sit by all these spots and have drinks, but then float into the lazy river. So the lazy river is the flow. It takes you around, and it's just a nice thing to ride along in, and then you could step out, sit for a bit, join it again.
Exactly.
I don't know. I guess strange things that come into my mind as I speak to you, but nothing bad.
I love it.
Well, right on. So, all right. So people can go and should, sounds like, to get your book. And then from there, do you offer direct coaching to them if they feel like the book's not enough?
Absolutely. I have programs, I have meditation programs, I've got healing events, I've got all sorts of different, you can go to christywhitman.com. I've got a menu of choices.
Okay, very good. Well,
Thank you,
thanks so
Richard.
much for coming on. Yeah, it's been a cool call.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate your questions and appreciate you listening.
No problem.
If you like this podcast, please click the link in the description to subscribe and review us on iTunes.
You've been listening to the Finding Genius podcast with Richard Jacobs. If you like what you hear, be sure to review and subscribe to the Finding Genius podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And want to be smarter than everybody else? Become a premium member at findinggeniuspodcast.com. This podcast is for information only. No advice of any kind is being given. Any action you take or don't take as a result of listening is your sole responsibility. Consult professionals when advice is needed.